Auburn's not the only spring game taking place this weekend. NC State gets to showcase their new quarterback. That's Grayson McCall. Let's bring on Kenton Gibbs, Locked On Wolfpack and Locked On ACC. Joining me here on the show, friend of the program. Kenton, let's start with Grayson McCall. What do you want to see from the Coastal Carolina transfer this weekend?
Well, we all know the spring games are a lot like a one-stop shop in terms of an ice cream parlor. It's one flavor. That's all you're going to get. It's going to be real vanilla. Everything's going to be real calm, real chill, nothing special. You know those ice cream days in elementary school where you get that little cup with the little wooden scooper? That's what you get here, right?
I know the ones.
And so that's all you're going to get. I want to see him on time. I want to see him delivering accurate balls, of course. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, because the biggest question about this group is not talent. The NC State wide receiver room last year, I'm going to be very generous when I say this, they were devoid of talent. They were a group that outside of Kevin Concepcion, it was not much. They left a ton to be desired in terms of just sheer talent, one for one. So when I look at this situation of this year, you have completely retooled that wide receiver room. I know the talent's there. I know. That's not a doubt in my mind. That's not a thought in my mind. I want to see how they're gelling, what the chemistry looks like. I know that they're going to throw the very basics. I know that they're going to run the simple route concepts that everybody knows you're going to run. But how clean and efficient can you be with those concepts is my question for this offense.
As NC State looks forward to this year, I've been high on them here on the show. I think they've had a good offseason bringing in transfer portal talent. I think McCall at quarterback is a really, really nice addition. But before we get to the receivers in a little bit more depth, what does Dave Doeren need from Grayson McCall compared to quarterbacks that he's had in the past?
I think that he just – well, that's a tough question to answer, because there are a lot of other answers there are a lot of other questions that float around this program as well, right? What does your defense look like without a Peyton Wilson needs to be answered before I can give you the proper answer of what needs to be done with a Grayson McCall. Because if this defense is playing at or above the level that they've been historically under Tony Gibson, then all you need Grayson to do is just don't hurt you. Don't lose you ball games. Again, on time, on target. If you can do those two things, you don't – I talk a lot about the three categories of quarterbacks, the ones you win because of, the ones you win with, the ones you win in spite of, right? All he has to do, if the defense is at that level to where they're a top 15, 20 unit in the country, just be a guy that NC State can win with, and everything will be just fine for you. Now, if you happen – of course, nobody ever turns down a guy you can win because of. Nobody will ever say, I don't want Pat Mahomes, give me Trent Dilfer. Nobody's ever going to say such a thing, right? So if he can be a guy that they win because of, amazing, immaculate, great. But if this is a situation where, he just makes those timely throws, doesn't make a ton of superstar plays, but just keeps the team ahead of the sticks and on schedule, I think that's more than enough to get NC State to where they want to be.
For those who might, get a taste of Grayson McCall for the first time because he was playing at Coastal Carolina, had a very successful career, completion percentage consistently in the mid to high 60s over there. What sort of player do you expect him to be? Is there a quarterback comp that you see in the country that, might make everyone go, oh, he's kind of a little bit like this guy who people know from over the years?
I try to stay away from comps because it gets a little dicey and a little hairy. But if I did have to give him a comp, I'd say Kenny Pickett's last year at Pitt, right? That would probably be my comp. And this is a guy that his main thing isn't his arm strength. It's the mobility to move the pocket and the ability to make good decisions, the ability to, again, just make the right decision. People greatly undervalue how important it is to just be able to read, dissect, make the right decision at quarterback. That's something I believe Grayson McCall can do in spades. He may not have the arm to throw 60-yard ropes down the field. He may not have the ability to be a Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson in the running game. He's not going to be that guy. I think he is a plus in the running game. I don't think he's exactly what Brennan Armstrong was running the ball last year either. But I think that he's a guy that he's going to make the right read, get the ball out on time, hit open receivers, which, again, with the talent that's in that room, you talk about Kevin Concepcion, a freshman All-American. You talk about Noah Rogers, a highly touted five-star that NC State was in it for right until the last minute where Ohio State stole him away. You talk about Justin Jolie transferring in, the tight end that broke the most tackles in the country, a yak specialist at tight end. I mean, where do you see that? And you talk about what they have in the backfield in terms of Jordan Waters, Hollywood Smothers, Kendrick Raphael, and all that. It's very simple. I think the equation is fairly simple. Just make the right decision and let your playmakers make the plays, and you'll be just fine.
Are the playmakers that he's going to have around him good enough to contend in the ACC, and how do they compare to last year?
This is the best batch of playmakers NC State has had since Torrey Holt and Jericho Cotchery were
Torrey Holt and Jericho Cotchery. Now, those are two names that I have not heard in a long, long time.
Yeah, so in terms of how this group stacks up with the rest of the ACC, I don't see a single group that player for player, I'm saying NC State cannot compete with that. I can hear arguments about there is a group that is maybe a hair better, and a hair more experience here or there. But in terms of player for player, up and down on paper, I'm not seeing a group that I'm like, your skill position has NC State skill position beat by a mile. And that's just me being very honest about the situation here. And most other programs in the ACC are in that same space of either replacing a ton of talent, a la Florida State, where you lose two receivers that average. The average height of Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman was 6'5.5". Both guys running 4.5, 4.6, but they play faster than they ran at the combine. I'm telling you, replacing those two guys is going to be a tough ask, and replacing their starting tight end as well. You've got some good horses in the stable, but they're in the same situation as State where it's unproven. Clemson, very similar situation. You lose your top dog in Bo Collins over to Notre Dame, and you're kind of sitting here saying to yourself, I know that their tight end has been there for a while and he's done good things, but other than him and that freshman Williams, who else do you have that have done a lot for that team? And I would argue that their freshman receiver isn't as good as KC. So outside of those two teams, who else could you say is in that competition, is in that realm and range of like, yeah, their skill positions are definitely up there with NC State, because I don't see a ton.
Those are definitely guys who will be on display in the spring game, and we'll talk with you after and kind of see how they performed and what the vibe is there. But go to the defensive side of the ball to wrap up today's show, Kenton. What do you want to see from this Wolfpack defense in the spring game?
I want to see the linebackers leading the charge. I know the defensive line is going to be good with Davin Van, a guy who I bought stock on early, and boy, is it flourishing. I feel like the guy who bought Apple back in 1998, because this thing, he's taken off and showing himself to be one of the better defenders in the country. Cleveland Jr. as well at the nose position. He is a penetrator at the one like we haven't seen. Or at the zero technique that we haven't seen out of Tony Gibson's system. Normally, the zero techniques are just there to kind of eat up space and eat up multiple blockers. But every time Cleveland's on the field, he seems to be in the backfield making some noise there. So, that's the defensive line is a defensive line. You know that between those two and pass rush specialists, Red Hibbler, they're going to be fine. On the back end, Aiden White ain't allowed a touchdown since I had hair. You understand? That boy he is a lockdown specialist. When they tell him, hey, your man locked onto this receiver, everywhere he goes, you go with him. Okay, if you tell him lock down one side of the field, congratulations, buddy, you're in Alcatraz now. Welcome. This side of the field is no longer open for business. So the back end, especially with the safeties that we saw get a lot of burn last year and all that, you know that they're going to be fine. The linebacking core is where the concerns are. And I get it. Coach Gibson is a linebacker savant. You feel like you could give him 3 sentient Roombas at linebacker and he'll produce a highly productive linebacking core. But I just need to see it. Because linebacker play outside of Peyton Wilson left a lot to be desired at times last year. And so this year, the question is, with the new talent that's coming in, it's kind of interesting how time seems to be a flat circle, because we lose one 6'3" freak of nature in Peyton Wilson to get another one and a true freshman out of Tennessee. I can't remember his name right now. I believe his last name is Groves. And he's going to be, another 6'3", 4-star freak of nature linebacker committed to NC State. And you look at Cade Fordham and Devon Betty and company, and you're saying to yourself, what can this linebacking core be without a guy who, statistically speaking, is not just one of the best linebackers in NC State history, not just one of the best linebackers in ACC history, one of the best in all of college football history in Peyton Wilson. So, that linebacking core leading the charge, or at least having the type of game where you can say they are up to par with the rest of the crew, that's what I want to see from the defense more than anything else. Because, again, Peyton Wilson was their first, their last, their everything, in the words of Teddy Pendergrass. And so he's gone now. He's going to be wearing an NFL jersey. Hey, Brad Holmes, pick up the phone. Brad Holmes, call him. Jack Campbell's good. Peyton Wilson's better. But seriously, you want to see what the linebacker core looks like without Peyton Wilson.
Everything you could need to know ahead of NC State's spring game. That is this Saturday, 6 o'clock, or April 6th, rather, on the ACC Network. You know everything you need to know. Kenton Gibbs gives you everything you need to know on the ACC, on Locked On ACC, on the Wolfpack, on Locked On NC State. Kenton, thanks as always, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always glad to be here, Spencer. You're my brother from another mother, and I love talking ball with you, man, because it is
ball season. It's nice to have some semblance of football to discuss right now. It is indeed very, very nice. We always appreciate that. Appreciate all you listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.